So welcome everyone. I'm Jeremy Foster. I'm the general manager for Cisco's compute business. And really excited to have with me today Kumaran Siva from AMD. Why don't you go ahead and give us an introduction to yourself?
Thank you so much for having me here. It's quite the honor to be here, and thank you for inviting us. So I run business development, strategic business development at AMD. So that includes kind of our work with verticals. We work closely with partners like Cisco, enabling solutions for end customers across different industries.
No, that's great. And we got a chance to catch up yesterday and talk before the session. And just maybe it would be great for the audience to give them an overall view of the big picture and what you're seeing, as well as some of those levers that you all are pulling to make some of the moves in the market that you're making.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a phenomenal journey that AMD has been on. So we got back into the server business about 5 years ago. Right, and we've actually generated 4 generations of new CPUs in that time. All right, and so we named them after Italian cities. We started with Naples, Rome, Milan, and the latest is Genoa, which we brought out in the end of last year, around the November timeframe. And so it's been phenomenal. We've really managed to sort of bring back that cadence that folks had expected from the server CPU server CPU providers. And so it's been quite interesting. So. Kind of big picture view on it. There's three things that customers really look for that we've been able to deliver consistently in those generations. The first thing is performance, right? So absolute raw performance, we're able to give you the most, give you 96 cores of really high performance CPU with commensurate memory bandwidth, an IO, PCIe Gen 5, DDR5. We're able to do all of that, on the top end performance. The second thing we brought was performance efficiency. So performance per watt. Power efficiency, very, very key, especially here in Europe, where there's now this massive pivot towards power efficiency, across the board, and that's something that we're seeing. It's not just performance at any cost; it's now performance per watt matters the most, and delivering performance within an envelope is really, really important. The third thing we bring, and it's a consequence of the other two, is TCO, right? And so the TCO benefit, has been extremely substantial, and it's been really good. So if you think about it in terms of the lever points that we bring here, we're able to take you all the way up and give you absolute performance, like 96 cores running full throttle. These are pretty powerful CPUs, and they're able to really give quite a bit of the most per core performance and the most performance per socket. But what we've actually found that's really powerful is customers have picked not just our top of stack, but CPUs that are sort of in the middle, either 16 cores, 24 cores, 32 cores. And we've had customers, like an FSI customer, who's been able to launch their virtualized workloads into that 32-core AMD. What they have told us is that they were shocked at the adoption that their end customers, like they had thousands of applications across multiple departments, those customers, how quickly they adopted this new instance, or this new infrastructure, was the fastest that they'd ever seen. And it's because all their jobs just ran faster.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Our last session was on sustainability. That's clearly a key theme in all markets, but in EMEA in particular. You hit on some of the other big things there in terms of performance and the approach around, and just the innovation that you all are delivering. 4 new processors in that amount of time, that many years, is pretty darn impressive. But are there specific workloads that you see customers adopting with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, the way I look at especially large enterprises, they have typically 2 classes of workloads. You have what I call general IT, and then you have specialized workloads that make the business run, workloads that make money for the business. So probably the clearest thing is, like in financial services, you have trade analytics, where the amount of CPU time, amount of processing you can do between trading day to trading day, is directly proportional to the amount of money you can make. So it's performance at all cost. right? You have simulations in manufacturing, like the car manufacturers. They have to do crash simulations. The number of simulations they can do there, it makes their cars better. So there's these workloads that are directly proportional to business outcomes. But on the other hand, there is general IT, where you really want to hit the sustainability, you really want to hit the power efficiency. So what we really found is that AMD is actually, we get in on these vertical applications that are really performance oriented, but then the customers see the value and see the value of having the latest generation process nodes, 5 nanometer, and then we see that growing into the general IT space. And so they'll use maybe the 96 core state of the art, the highest performance thing for the crash simulation or for a risk analysis, those specialized workloads. But then they'll use a 32-core, 16-core, 24-core device, with an amazing power efficiency and amazing performance for the general IT workloads, so that their broad set of long tail of users are happy with that.
Yeah. And that's a really big value that we see from customers as well. I mean, a lot of this taking advantage of the new technology is all about consolidation, right? And how do you end up going from 500 servers down to 130, 140 servers, and how do you save and drive that sustainability? And that's what we're seeing when we work together with our customers here is, how do we take, for example, large financial customers, healthcare customers, and then drive huge ROI around the consolidation, both on the networking side as well, but that ultimately yields big sustainability savings, and that's really what our customers are after. And the other thing I think financially that's really important is when you drive consolidation, you take advantage of these types of technologies, is you save a lot of money on things that aren't just hardware, right? It's the software to operate those environments. Yeah. You're talking about being able to reduce those types of numbers close to 30%. Mm-hmm. On average, we see it like 27%. And so you reduce the number of boxes and you reduce the spend there. You take your support, your SmartNet from Cisco that includes the AMD processor in the box. You reduce that many boxes, you're talking about taking down the price of SmartNet by 39% in a lot of cases. And so it's been really interesting.
No, that's a great benefit. You're highlighting the system level value that Cisco brings, which is really, really key, right? We're an ingredient, but being able to bring it up and then being able to take it, do server consolidation, do some of these things that really matter to the end user is really important. And I think that's a strong value of the partnership that we've built up.
Right. And along those same lines, I mean, the things that we just talked about, consolidation, can you talk some more about how you're looking further to reduce the amount of energy? You mentioned sustainability a little bit, but I think there's probably some more there you could talk about.
Yeah, certainly. I think fundamentally, what really brings value to our customers and really drives sustainability is matching what the customer needs, giving them taking where they are, meeting the customer where they are. So for example, if your infrastructure today is a 12-core Skylake, dual socket, we can offer you a number of alternatives that really give you the performance uplift you're looking for so that your users get a benefit. At the same time, providing you with the sustainability, providing you with the power efficiency, right? So to take those dual socket 12 cores, give you a 24 core 1P or one socket, or a 2P with 16 cores, 32 sockets, 32 cores altogether. That kind of that kind of incremental benefit while giving you the value in TCO, and then also giving you the value in terms of power savings. That's actually quite powerful, right? Now you can also go, if you're a power user, you can also take 4 of those or 5 of those Skylake servers and consolidate them down into using our state-of-the-art Genoa 1 or 2 server of 96 cores, right? And that's also a use case. But for a lot of people, it's about kind of the incremental, like being able to take what they have today, the manageability that Cisco brings, allows you to scale either any way you want, but be able to take that and bridge into something that makes sense for the workloads you have, the management architecture you have, the type of workload deployment, the type of data center deployment that you're working from.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the flexibility you get within the platform to go from 32 cores all the way to 96 and address all those use cases. It's very simple, right? And that's what we also like to do when we bring management into the game as well with things like Intersight, is be able to treat all your servers exactly the same way. Make sure that you're using the latest and greatest firmware. Update them in a very simple fashion. And then there's some other things that we do with Intersight as well as it relates to security, which is obviously another really big hot button, if you will, top of mind for CIOs. And I don't think people often associate, well, what's my CPU got to do with security? Like all the other stuff around it has to do with security. My bad malware, email that comes in, phishing attacks, those types of things. That's what I think of when I think of security. But you're doing some really interesting things as it relates to security.
Okay. So baseline modern AMD CPU, we take care of. I guess security did come in terms of, like you mentioned, that CPUs are not necessarily in the news for security, but there was a Spectre meltdown, all of these sidecar attacks, on virtualization that came into being. AMD's modern CPUs our whole line at this point really does actually address those sidecar type of issues and those vulnerabilities. So just doing that upgrade into either a Milan or a Genoa server, you take care of those vulnerabilities at the CPU level. But probably more interesting, we've been working very closely with the hyperscalers. Part of our journey back into the server business, we partnered very closely with the hyperscalers. And one of the technologies that we've pioneered with them, is really, in the cloud, you have multiple tenants, and they all have to live well together, and you want to make sure that one isn't somehow maliciously attacking the other. And so one of the capabilities that we've brought in is to secure encrypted virtualization. So this being a Cisco show, of course, everyone understands networking, IPsec, encryption across the wire. What SEV is about is providing that same kind of encryption into the compute domain so that each virtual machine is actually encrypted from another. So you have these different domains that you can set up, and the hypervisor can't see what's going on in the guest can't see what's going on in each other. So it provides you with this nice platform for security, which of course ties in very well with the manageability and management capabilities that Cisco bring.
Yeah, it's another place to think about a threat surface and being able to augment it. That's pretty cool. And that's what we're trying to do, is make it really be able to adopt those features within Intersight. So just like we would do with firmware, like I mentioned, we can do that with the SEV settings. And that way you're always in the right state as you deploy a server or add a new server, or you don't forget to put this as part of your automation or change a particular setting. So you can adopt some of those features like they've built with the hyperscalers in the enterprise without having to worry about any type of a challenge. And what else? We've talked a lot about a lot of things, primarily in the data center. But what about the edge? What are you seeing out there? That's another big top of the mind.
Yeah. So the edge. I mean, I love talking about the edge because it means different things to almost everybody, right? If you talk to a hyperscaler, they'll tell you the edge is anything that doesn't sit in the cloud. Right, but then you have what I think of really as the edge actually is what's deployed outside the data center, right? So if you have big managed data centers that are cooled and temperature controlled, and you can have how many kilowatts per rack, right? That's one environment. Another environment, though, I think about as being edge is where those boxes are out in the like for example, for retail, out in a store, or in telco, they're out in either in a co-location or in a NEBS environment, underneath a base station somewhere. So those are kind of what we call edge environments. So AMD, we start off really focused in on the core. We start off with hyperscalers. Now we've really broken into enterprise in a fairly significant way. But now we're also our parts have gotten deployed into edge applications. So for example, colo CDNs were deployed quite a bit already today. There are folks the telco is a big area for us. We'll be at MWC. You'll see a fair bit of the adoption from carriers of AMD technology. So that part of it is growing substantially. But we also we want to invest very directly in the edge going forward, and these are for these boxes that sit outside. So in our roadmap, we have a part coming out later this year called Sienna, and that's actually specifically targeted for edge applications, including those retail applications, smart retail, as well as the telco, vRAN, far edge type use cases as well.
Yeah, so maybe just tell us a little bit more about Sienna, just in terms of what's different than that versus Genoa, which until you said earlier that they were all named after Italian cities, I thought that was actually salami. me, so I appreciate you educating me on that today.
Yeah.
But would love to know more about Siena.
No, yes, yeah. Again, it is an Italian city. Apparently, a really pretty one at that. But what it is it's a lower power. It's by design. So our architecture is you have a centralized I/O die with these chiplets that are actually the CPUs around it. And one of the things that we're doing with Siena is we're optimizing both the I/O die and the little chiplets around it to be very low power, so that we can hit 65 watts, 100 watts, all of the ranges that are lower and be very, very optimally efficient. And then also be able to live in NEBS compliant environments. I think something Cisco knows extremely well, of course. But to be able to then be deployed into telco central offices, some of which are not necessarily temperature controlled and the like, right? Or have to live within much greater variance of environmental conditions. So that's really the key to it. So it's perfect. You can think of it as a smaller, lower cost, more optimized version of the Genoa.
No, that's great. Are there any other kind of innovations that are top of mind that you'd like to share with the team?
Yeah, no, I think there's. I mean, we're. Fundamentally, I can't emphasize enough the chiplet architecture that we put together. So this is where we had, an I/O die with the chiplets around it. This is what enables us to scale. It enables us to go up to 96 cores, but down to 16 cores, or even 8 cores, right? And it's a combination of having these pieces separated, not really depending on monolithic design. So we think about our resurgence in the data center and CPU space. It's really been around, kind of an architectural innovation, as well as being able to hit the latest process nodes, and being able to, do 7 nanometer, 5 nanometer on time, right? So in addition to that, this architectural innovation has really been absolutely key. So one of the things, we really are seeing a lot of success in the market, because of it, and the ability to scale. So we're probably about now. Some analysts, I guess you have to look at the actual estimates, but they're saying that we're hitting about 30% of the overall server CPU market. So that's fairly significant, right? From a adoption standpoint, and part of it's the flexibility that this architecture gives us.
Yeah, it's really significant, and there's a tremendous amount of innovation. And really, what I like about it, being an old school data center person from sort of the data center side into the compute side and so on and so forth, is that you just have a tremendous amount of flexibility. And so for me, it's always about what am I doing? How does that impact the ultimate cost and the outcome that I'm trying to deliver? And you can actually really customize what that outcome is going to be if you look across the entire lineup of what you're delivering, which is great. So we're certainly looking forward to doing more with you. I think that's one of the questions from that, hey, what are you and AMD going to be doing, and what are you looking forward to doing together with Cisco?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Cisco and AMD is one of the best partnerships out there, right? I mean, there's so much IP in Cisco and so much innovation and so much capability as a company. And then you bring the ingredient of AMD as a platform, both in terms of, like the chiplets as being a fundamental ingredient, but overall just the partnership together to be able to go build innovative platforms together. I really feel like we're at the beginning of this journey together, right? Now you're going to see a lot of great things between Cisco and AMD come out in the next, the next years, right? As we grow together. But definitely a huge partnership between us.
Yeah, I mean, we're super excited. And in fact, a lot of people probably don't recognize this, but Lisa Su's on our board.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and so that's a pretty good connection. And we absolutely love working with AMD. And I'm very excited about the technology innovation. It speaks for itself, right? You don't go from low single digits to 30% of the market in a couple of 3-4 years if you weren't doing some pretty innovative things. And so from an industry perspective, it's really neat to see. I think we're certainly excited to figure out how we can take those chips, put them in our building blocks, and help further customize that outcome for customers.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been quite the journey to date. We're really looking forward to working closely with Cisco in the next generation.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
But with that, we'd like to thank everybody for coming, and have a great Cisco Live.
Great, thank you.